Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. India's maiden indigenous aircraft carrier INS Vikrant was formally commissioned today after completing almost a year of trials at sea. Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the 45,000-ton carrier at the Kochi shipyard. At 262 meters long and 62 meters wide, the 20,000 crore rupee warship is India's largest aircraft carrier to be built domestically. This takes India on par with United States, UK, China, France and Russia, the elite group of nations to build an aircraft carrier in-house. The carrier can accommodate more than 1,500 crew members and nearly 30 aircraft, including MiG fighter jets and helicopters. The first aircraft carrier to be operated by the Indian Navy was also called the Vikrant. It was officially commissioned in 1961 and played a significant role during the 1971 India-Pakistan War. This is when the carrier led the naval blockade in then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. After 36 years of service, the ship was decommissioned in 1997 before being dismantled and sold. Definitely, today, with the commissioning of INS Vikrant, this is a big moment for the Indian Navy.
आत्मनिर्भर होते भारत का अद्वितीय प्रतिबिंब है विक्रांत। आजादी के अमृत महोत्सव का अतुलनीय अमृत है विक्रांत। आईएनएस विक्रांत पर हो रहा ये आयोजन विश्व क्षितिज पर भारत के बुलंद होते हौसलों की हुंकार है।
Let me go across to Admiral Sunil Lamba, the former Chief of Naval Staff, who's joining us right now. Admiral Lamba, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me begin by asking you, how is this new naval carrier, the indigenous aircraft carrier, going to add to the capability of the Indian Navy?
Thank you for inviting me onto your channel. It's going to make a significant impact on the strategic capability of not only the Indian Navy, but also of our nation, India. September is an important month. In September 1960, we commissioned the first indigenous ship, that is a seaward defense boat of about 100 tons. Today, in September 22, we have built the largest indigenous warship, the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant. INS Vikrant, when she is fully operational, along with her escorts, the carrier task force or the carrier battle group, will have significant capabilities in the larger reaches of the Indo-Pacific. It can project power, deterrence, diplomacy, both flag showing and coercive, provide HADR assistance where required, monitor the sea lines of communications in the Indo-Pacific. So it's not only going to add a capability to the Indian Navy, but also to our nation.
Right. Admiral Lamba, in terms of warfare capabilities, how is the INS Vikrant equipped and how does it compare to the INS Vikramaditya?
In comparison, they're more or less the same. They're more or less the same size. They will carry more or less the same air wing. At the moment, they'll have the air wing of MiG-29K fighter aircraft, along with the Kamov 31 early warning helicopter, and in the year to come, the MH-60R, the anti-submarine patrol, the multi-role helicopter. So capability-wise, the air wing of both Vikramaditya and Vikrant will be the same, with the potential to carry 30-plus aircraft. Both the aircraft carriers have huge capabilities as part of the carrier task force.
Right. Admiral Lamba, do you also feel that, of course, within the Navy, there is a demand for a third aircraft carrier? And it is believed that there must always be two in service in case one has gone for refitting or any kind of repairs for that matter. How soon do you think should the Indian government take a decision on this? The second indigenous aircraft carrier will be called the INS Vishal. By when do you think this could be sanctioned?
The decision should have been taken as of yesterday. As India's stature grows, and not only in the Indian Ocean, the larger Indo-Pacific, we'll have to bear greater responsibilities. And if you want to be a regional power, it can only be on the back of maritime power. So that is why the Indian Navy has always made a case for 3 aircraft carriers. When you have a class of ship, say like if you have 3 of a class of ship, you'll always find the serviceability of any platform is about 65%. Always one ship will be under a maintenance period, or as we in the Navy call the refit. So you need 3 to have 2 operational aircraft carriers which are available to you to deploy where the national interest, when the need lies. And I think this decision should be taken sooner than later.
Right. When was the idea for INS Vishal, the third indigenous aircraft carrier, first floated, Admiral Lamba? And why has there been a delay?
The carrier doesn't carry the name of INS Vishal. I think this is a name which has been given by the media. We've been talking of IAC-2, that indigenous aircraft carrier 2. This idea of the IAC-2 was floated, if my memory is correct, more than a decade back. It has taken different forms and fit. Ultimately, the Navy took a decision in 2016-17 that it would be conventionally powered and not nuclear powered, to a size of about 65,000 tons. That is the largest ship which can be built in a building dock in India with the catobar configuration, that is catapult launch and arrestor gear, but that gives huge capabilities of operating all kinds of aviation assets, early air warning, fixed-wing aircraft, unmanned platforms, fighters, with the ability to launch with full payload and with fuel. So that is a proposal which the Indian Navy had put forward. And I think the government should take a decision, like I said earlier, quickly, because it'll take a little bit of time to design it and thereafter build it. So if you take a decision now, in my opinion, the earliest you can get the IAC-2 would be in about 10 years' time.
Right. Admiral Lamba, thank you very much for summing up the immediate needs of the Indian Navy and the importance of this moment, the commissioning of INS Vikrant, and what it means for India's security needs. Thanks once again for being with us here on Global Eye.
My pleasure.
Shifting focus now, droughts, forest fires, shrinking rivers. China has been grappling with the worst heat wave recorded in the last 60 years. With more than 70 days of extreme heat and low rainfall, the country's rivers have almost dried up, with Asia's largest river, Yangtze, almost drying up. The devastating heat wave has killed thousands of livestock as several provinces report temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius. Several merchant vessels are reportedly stranded, with receding water levels making navigation completely impossible. There is no respite to the people of China since the pandemic started. The country is still seeing fresh cases coupled with a heat wave, drought, power outage and wildfires. The natural disasters have left a big dent on China's economic health, which is also visible in the country's GDP and manufacturing data. We're now joined by Zhongyan Zhu Lu, fellow at the International Political Economy Department at the Council on Foreign Relations. Zhou, thank you so much for joining us here on Global Eye on CNBC TV 18. Give us a sense of how these extreme weather conditions are impacting the Chinese economy right now and how this will grow in the next few months.
Yeah, thank you very much, Luther, for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here and speaking with you. So let me just, step back a little bit and quickly just to give you, why we are concerned about the Yangtze River, right? And you are absolutely right. In your earlier remarks, you mentioned that the Yangtze River is very important economically and environmentally to China. Actually, the Yangtze River is not just important for China per se, but also for the world as well, because we're talking about the Yangtze River being the world's third largest river. And in the context of China, it provides drinking water to the Chinese people along the waterway as well. We are talking about something around 400 million Chinese people. And when you are talking about the economy, probably you realize, it is the most vital waterway to the Chinese economy as well. And a very important part of China's economic growth comes from energy, right? And the Yangtze River is very important, a very important source of hydropower for Chinese economy, which relies upon about 18% on hydro. And then finally, we're also talking about it's very important to the global supply chain because of logistics, because of the ports along the Yangtze River. Now, the droughts really hits a lot of the provinces along the way. And so far, there are about, at least, last time when I checked, it's about 2.5 million people and about 2.2 hectares of agricultural lands in the area. For example, in Sichuan province, Hebei, Hunan, Jiangxi, and the city of Chongqing. So here, the drought is important. So the drought has a very negative impact on the economy. But I would say the challenge to the Chinese economy right now is not just the drought per se. Really, we haven't seen power outage or the government bring back coal-fired power plant the same as last year. But we are talking about the COVID situation really is what challenging the Chinese economy right now.
Right. Yes, we have been hearing about the zero COVID strategy and how it is impacting the economy and the industrial output as well. At the same time, what steps do you expect or do you see the Chinese government taking in order to address the impact of global warming, in order to reduce emissions and also to put the economy back on track?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Both China as well as India as well have made concrete steps to realize their commitment to net zero emission. So right now, from the Chinese perspective, really the concrete step is in the area of energy consumption, as well as the technology aspect of it to improve energy efficiency. And within the whole energy aspect, China has been, President Xi Jinping has made a commitment to say China is no longer going to build a coal-fired power plant abroad, meaning there's no export on that. And instead, China's strategy has been, especially in the exporting market, has been putting a lot of emphasis on nuclear energy. So that is one important element that from energy perspective, China will do and has been dedicated to do in order to reduce energy, reduce carbon dioxide emission. And then on the other hand, from industrial mix, China is trying very hard to move away from the traditional energy-intensive growth model and move along the value chain. But the drought really had a knock-on effect, so we are not exactly sure if the drought were dragging along, let's say moving beyond September. It's unknown whether there will be more coal-fired power plant bring back to work. And if that's the case, it's going to complicate China's commitment to the realization to net zero. But for every country, the move towards net zero is going to be like a zigzag route instead of like a straight line.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Zoe. And clearly there is a problem that the global economy will also face, because there will be an impact on supply chains with key industries in China cutting back production because of the power outages as well. We've run out of time, but thank you very much for joining us with your view on the drought situation, the heat wave, and the economic slowdown that we're witnessing in China at this juncture. You are watching Global Eye. US Senator Jon Ossoff is on an 8-day visit to India to boost bilateral ties between the two countries. The 35-year-old Democrat senator who represents Georgia is the youngest United States senator in 3 decades. Ossoff interacted with the industrialists in the country, including senior executives from the Tata Group, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Aditya Birla, Mahindra Group, among others. I caught up with Ossoff and started by asking him about the business opportunities in the state of Georgia.
The deep and special friendship that I've built with the Indian American community in Georgia is part of what motivated me to come here, as well as my conviction that the bilateral relationship between the United States and India is one of the most important friendships of the present and of decades to come. And the warm welcome, the generous spirit that I've received since I arrived in Mumbai has been overwhelming. It's already been a tremendously successful visit, meeting with business leaders, with cultural leaders, with faith leaders, with the bright young students at Jai Hind College, celebrating the Festival of Ganesh with the community here. Already this trip is off to a great start, and I'm so grateful for that warm welcome.
Right. I'd also like to ask you about, as you said, Georgia has a big Indian American community, and you want to further relations not just between India and US, but also Indian states and the state of Georgia. Any specific plans that you have in mind in order to attract investments in Georgia? Any pitch that you're making to Indian businessmen, policymakers here?
Well, I've had very productive meetings with Indian business leaders since I arrived earlier this week. We've discussed particular opportunities to deepen commercial relations, mutual investment and trade in the energy sector, to deepen that trade for the purpose of improving energy security for both of our countries, the opportunities that are emerging in renewable energy, in battery technology, in electric vehicles. The state of Georgia, which I represent, is emerging as the critical hub in the United States for the next generation of automotive production, for lithium-ion battery production. We also host the largest single photovoltaic module production facility in the Western Hemisphere. So the opportunities for Indian businesses to invest in Georgia are significant, because it's clear that Indian business is going all in on renewable energy, energy security, and energy independence.
Right. Just to ask you about the trade deal, it had received a lot of traction during the Trump administration. We were even close to signing a mini trade deal. But for the moment, it seems to have fallen on the back burner. What is the view of the Biden administration on any trade deal with India, or even trade negotiation at this stage?
Well, I don't speak for the Biden administration, but I am in regular touch with the United States Trade Representative Katherine Tai and her team. And an issue that I've openly raised with my Indian colleagues is my desire to improve market access for Georgia farmers to the Indian market, particularly in pecans, which are a nut that is a key crop grown in my home state. India does not have domestic production of pecans, but they're subject to significant tariffs. That, I think, is an opportunity for us to help to define what could be the next steps that are taken to improve trade relations, continue to improve trade relations between the U.S. and India.
Right. Also, currently, an issue between India and US is the long wait times for US visas. I'd like to ask you about many H-1B workers in US facing uncertainty about not being able to go back home to India because they know that there is very long wait time for processing of visas. Is that something that you're urging the US administration to work on, increase staffing across embassies and consulates?
The visa processing backlog, which was worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, is a real issue. And it's something that I'm committed to working with the State Department to relieve. And for my Indian American constituents who may wish to attend a wedding or a funeral of a loved one overseas, or have visiting family, or for businesses who are seeking to move employees, technologists, innovators, engineers between the two countries for the purposes of deepening trade, it is a significant issue and something that I'm committed to working with the State Department to address.
Right. Talking about the midterm elections, which are around the corner, it seems to be a very important moment for the Biden administration and the Democrats as well. We have been seeing President Biden delivering executive action after executive action to prove to the U.S. public that they have a solid plan to keep the economy on track and to grow the U.S. economy as well. What's your view on this midterm election and how the Democrats could perform?
Well, this Congress has passed some very significant legislative achievements just in the last few months. We have passed the most significant strengthening of health care for veterans in the United States in decades. We've passed the most significant investment in energy independence and clean and renewable energy in our nation's history. We've passed legislation to reduce the cost of prescription medicines for seniors and elders in our society just in the last few months. So there's a significant record of achievement built in just the last few months. I'm not going to get into election forecasting. In the state of Georgia, I will be campaigning hard to ensure that my colleague, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, is reelected to a full term.
Right. And just to top it with one final question about the rise of the Indian American in American politics, in American business. How do you see that growing, Senator Ossoff?
The Indian American community in Georgia is thriving. It's beloved, and we're talking about entrepreneurs, engineers, civic leaders, significant political participation, more and more Indian Americans who are running for public office in Georgia and across the country. And again, the friendship, the extraordinary warmth of the friendship that I've built with Indian Americans in Georgia is a big part of what inspired me to lead this delegation to India at this crucial moment in the bilateral relationship between the United States and India. So for all of the Indian Americans in Georgia who are tuned in, it is my pleasure and my honor to serve you. And as always, if I can be of any help to you, it's ossoff.senate.gov.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Ossoff, for joining us here on Global Eye, giving us your view on the U.S. administration's view on India and areas that you would like the state of Georgia to work with very closely with the Indian government and Indian businesses on as well. Thanks once again for joining us.